We're going on 3 showcases in a row for archetypes that were printed in the 2008-2009 days and have yet to receive any support or reprint since. But this time, we're talking the deck of a pretty relevant side character, Bommer, known as Greiger in the dub. This dude uses a Reactor deck, a set of monsters that burn the opponent anytime a particular card type is activated. Yep, here we go with another burn deck. The archetype currently consists of 4 main deck monsters: Spell Reactor, Summon Reactor, Trap Reactor, who each burn your opponent when they play a spell, monster, or trap respectively, and then the combination guy, Flying Fortress, Skyfire, who actually was pretty decent for the time if he wasn't so hard to bring out. The archetype actually has 2 other cards. One is Bomber's Dark Synchro Dark Flat Top, which revives Skyfire, and Fake Explosion, which revives Summon Reactor. With archetypes like this, I generally suspect Konami, if they were to revisit it, would retrain the reactors and adapt more of the character's anime deck, so that'll be the approach I take. Moreover, as you may be aware from recent releases, Dark Tuners are coming to the game, but they kinda whiffed on them. So since Bomber is a Dark Signer, I'll also briefly touch on not just Dark Tuners, but how I think Dark Synchros might look. Kicking off the monsters is Summon Reactor BO. If you control no monsters or only Dark Machine monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. If this card is summoned, you can send 1 card that mentions Flying Fortress Bomber from your deck to the grave. The first time a monster or monsters are summoned each turn, inflict 800 damage to its controller. Then, if you control another Reactor monster, you can destroy that summoned monster. You can only use each effect of this guy once per turn. Each of the reactors will retain their main effect, though with a slight buff, this one being that if you control another reactor, you can pop the summon monster. This guy also has a nice little setup effect, since many of the cards will have some sort of combo potential when activating from the grave. Next is Spell Reactor MM. You can reveal 1 trap in your hand, special summon this card from your hand. When a spell card or effect is activated on the field, quick effect, you can destroy that spell card, then inflict 800 damage to the player who controlled it. You can only use each of the previous effects of Spell Reactor MM once per turn. While this card is face up on the field once per turn, you can activate 1 trap that mentions Flying Fortress Bomber from your hand. You can only gain this effect once per turn. But from the original, because it's a quick effect, and that second effect helps since this is a very trap-heavy deck with 6 in the archetype. Next is Trap Reactor ER. You can send 1 trap from your hand or either face-up field to the grave, special summon this card from your hand. If this card is summoned, you can set 1 trap that mentions Flying Fortress Bomber from your deck. It can be activated this turn by discarding 1 card at activation. When a trap card or effect is activated on the field, quick effect, you can destroy it and inflict 800 damage to the player who controlled it. You can only use each effect of this guy once per turn. There's another starter for the deck, getting the ball rolling on your traps, and like Spell Reactor, its original effect is buffed by making it a quick effect. One other call out, that all these can work not just when your opponent summons or activates, but when you do too, which can result in some sneaky combo potential. Putting the 3 together, we get Flying Fortress Bomber, which will actually be a contact fusion instead, as it probably should have been all along. Must first be special summoned from your extra deck by banishing the above cards from your field and or grave. Quick effect, you can discard 1 card, then target 1 face-up card on the field, negate its effects. When your opponent summons a monster, you can destroy it, then inflict 800 damage to your opponent. When your opponent places a spell trap card on the field, quick effect, you can destroy it, then inflict 800 damage to your opponent. You can only use each effect of Flying Fortress Bomber once per turn. So these effects are largely similar. Like I mentioned, the original actually is pretty good. It's just really annoying to bring out. The buff here is that they become quick effects, as well as turning the first effect from destruction into negation, since it already has many other destruction effects. The bigger change here also is that this doesn't clog up your deck and hand by sitting neatly in your extra deck. And that actually does it for the reactor side of things. Now let's move into the Dark Tuner stuff, starting with Diving Exploder. You can discard this card, add 1 Dark Tuner monster from your deck to your hand, then you take damage equal to 100 times the level of that monster. If you control a Dark Tuner monster, you can special summon this card from your grave, but banish it when it leaves the field. Also, you cannot summon monsters from your extra deck for the rest of this turn except Synchro monsters. You can only use each effect of Diving Exploder once per turn. This card will work wonders for any deck that wants to leverage Dark Tuner, since it searches for all of them and serves as a floating body to then bring out a Synchro with the Dark Tuner. The extra benefit for this archetype is that it's also a Dark Machine. Next is Dark Tuner Doom Submarine. You can reveal this card in your hand immediately after this effect resolves. Normal summon 1 Dark Tuner monster without tributing. You can only use this effect of Dark Tuner Doom Submarine once per turn. Once per turn, you contribute this face-up card in 1 face-up non-tuner with a lower level, and if you do, special summon 1 Synchro monster from your extra deck. with a level equal to the difference between those monsters' levels. This is treated as a synchro summon. When I said earlier that Dark Tuners whiffed, the primary reason is that they're missing that without tributing clause. That makes this far quicker and combos perfectly with Diving Exploder. It can also use its Dark Tuning effect when it has been special summoned to the field. I'm not really sure why Konami felt the need to have these restrictions on Dark Tuners, but I would suspect they'll eventually move off them to make these guys at least somewhat playable. And finally, we had the debut of Dark Synchro's Dark Synchro Flat Top. Must be synchro summoned with the effect of a Dark Tuner monster. Your opponent cannot target Dark Machine monsters you control with card effects. You can only use the following effects of Dark Synchro Flat Top once per turn. If you control no Reactor monsters, you can add one Reactor monster from your deck to your hand. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon one Reactor monster from your banishment. Then you can add one trap that mentions Flying Fortress Bomber from your banishment to your hand. As you may know, Dark Synchros from the anime are just regular Synchros. Konami's recent release of the Dark Tuners makes me think they may do retrains of the Dark Synchros, but I would guess they're not going to do the whole negative level thing and instead make them like this, where they must be summoned via a Dark Tuners effect. In any case, this card is both a great starter and ender for your combos since it can get the ball rolling on Reactor plays with the search effect, while also giving your board targeting protection. Also has a strong float effect to recycle throughout your banishment, since a lot of cards will end up there. This deck actually doesn't have any spells designed for it, but we got a slew of traps adapted from either the anime or video games used by Bomber, starting with the normal trap Damage Summon. Special summon one Reactor monster from your hand or deck whose attack or defense is less than or equal to the total effect damage inflicted to all players during this turn. You can banish this card from your grave, then target one Dark Machine monster you control, take damage equal to half its attack, and if you do, send one trap that mentions Flying Fortress Bomber from your deck to the grave, except Damage Summon. You can only use each effect of Damage Summon once per turn. This is a great card for the deck since so many effects either involve you or your opponent taking damage. For example, Diving Exploder will search out Dark Submarine, you take 900 damage, which then makes Damage Summon live for both Spell and Trap Reactor. Its second effect sets up your grave with more traps that also have grave effects. Next is Ultimate Flare Normal Trap. Send one Reactor monster from your deck to the grave, then special summon one Ultimate Flare token, Machine type Dark, level 1, attack 0, defense 0. Its name becomes that sent monsters. When it is destroyed, your opponent takes 800 damage. You can banish this card from your grave and target one trap that mentions Flying Fortress Bomber in your banishment, except Ultimate Flare. Set that target. It can be activated this turn if either player has taken effect damage this turn. You can only use each effect of Ultimate Flare once per turn. This card has a few utilities. First, serving as a name for Reactor plays and Contact Fusion. Second is the burn, which feeds into effects like Damage Summon or other effects that revolve around taking damage, like this card's next effect, which brings us to the third, recycling through the traps you've banished for more plays. Next, we have Delta Reactor. Normal trap, special summon one Reactor monster from your hand or grave. Immediately after this effect resolves, special summon one Flying Fortress Bomber from your extra deck using its own procedure. It gains the following effects depending on which materials were used from the field until the end of the next turn. You can only activate one Delta Reactor per turn. So if Spell Reactor MM came from the field, your Bomber will be unaffected by spell effects. If Summon Reactor BO came from the field, it'll be unaffected by monster effects. And if Trap Reactor ER came from the field, it'll be unaffected by trap effects, those protections lasting again until the end of the next turn. Pretty straightforward, and also gives you a way to Contact Fuse, including on your opponent's turn. Next is Contaminated Earth. Normal trap, negate the effects of face-up cards on the field up to the number of Reactor monsters you control with different names, or 3 face-up cards instead if you control Flying Fortress Bomber until the end of this turn. If a level 8 or higher monster you control is destroyed, you can banish this card from your grave, special summon one Earthbound Immortal monster from your hand, deck, or grave, then banish all other monsters on the field except Synchro monsters. Nice little stun effect to go along with all the destruction effects that reactors have, and then as was the case with the Fortune Lady custom support, I'm tying in some Earthbound Immortal effect to the Dark Signer characters. Next is Chariot Pile. Continuous trap. During your main phase, you can inflict 300 damage to your opponent for every Reactor monster you control. Your opponent can negate this effect by tributing one monster they control. If this card on the field is destroyed, you can banish it from your grave and send one normal trap that mentions Flying Fortress Bomber from your deck to the grave. This effect becomes that card's effect when it is activated on the field. You can only use each effect of Chariot Pile once per turn. Quick little burn effect loosely based on its anime effect, but also critical for those other effects we've gone through that feed off either player taking burn damage. And this is one card that especially benefits from the change to the reactors that they can pop your own cards, because Trap Reactor can pop this card which can then go into its second effect and open up more combos for the deck by A, setting up your grave, and B, getting a second use of an effect that might otherwise have a hard once per turn. And finally, another continuous trap, Basara. When this card is activated, you can add one Reactor monster from your deck to your hand. During the main phase, you contribute one monster you control, then destroy one monster on the field whose level is higher than the attributed monsters, then inflict 800 damage to the player who controlled the destroyed monster. You can only use each effect of Basara once per turn. Simple search effect, as well as disruption and burn to feed the control elements of the deck. Alright, let's jump into the combo. Simple one card starter. It will be Diving Exploder. Use its effect to send itself from the hand to the grave to add a Dark Tuner monster from deck to hand. That'll be the Doom Submarine. Doom Submarine's effect to reveal itself in hand to normal summon a Dark Tuner monster in your hand without having to tribute summon itself. Then you can use Diving Exploder's Graveyard effect to bring itself out since you control a Dark Tuner monster. It'll be banished when it leaves the field. Go into the Dark Tuner's Synchroing effect to bring out Dark Synchro Flat Top, and then use its effect to add a Reactor monster from deck to hand. We're going to go grab the Summon Reactor. Summon Reactor can be normal summon without tribute if we only control Dark Machine monsters, so we'll do that, then use its effect to send Damage Summon from deck to grave. Then we'll use Damage Summon's second effect from the grave to banish it and target Summon Reactor. We take 1,000 damage and send Ultimate Flare from deck to the graveyard. We'll use Ultimate Flare's second effect to banish it from the grave to set Damage Summon from the banishment. And then we're going to go to our end phase. And the reason to do that is just to avoid Nibiru, because in the end phase, we can then start to activate more effects. We'll activate Damage Summon and use its first effect to special summon Trap Reactor from our deck, since we've actually taken 1,900 damage. I forgot to take that first 900 off of Diving Exploder. So more than enough to bring out the reactors. We can bring out Trap Reactor, use its effect to set Chariot Pile from our deck. And then we'll end our turn here. And then on our opponent's draw phase or standby phase, we'll activate the effect of Chariot Pile and then chain Trap Reactor right on top of it to destroy it, and we ourselves will take 800 damage. But then that'll allow us to use Chariot Pile's effect, where when it is destroyed, we can banish it from the grave and copy an effect of a normal Trap Dimensions Flying Fortress Bomber from our deck by sending it to the grave. So we're going to go and grab Ultimate Flare, and then we'll use that copied effect to send Spell Reactor from deck to grave, and that'll summon out a token which will have the name of Spell Reactor. Now we're going to use Damage Summon's second effect, as we did on our own turn, banish it and target Trap Reactor. So now we're going to take half its attack, that'll be 400 in damage, and send Ultimate Flare from deck to grave. And as we did on our own turn, we're going to use Ultimate Flare's other effect to banish it and set back Damage Summon from our banishment. We'll activate that Damage Summon, bring out another copy of Trap Reactor, and use Trap Reactor's effect to then search out either Contaminated Earth or Delta Reactor. Contaminated Earth gets you that 3 negates in one swoop, plus Summon Reactor and Trap Reactor on board. And if you go with Delta Reactor, which I'll show here, that'll allow you to go into your Flying Fortress Bomber play, and by banishing the token, which takes on the name of Spell Reactor currently, a Summon Reactor, and a Trap Reactor, and that'll bring out, again, your big guy, who will have its many effects that you can use, as well as being protected by targeting thanks to Dark Synchro Flat Top. And since you used all 3 of the materials from the field with Delta Reactor, it will actually be unaffected by spells, monsters, and traps until the end of your next turn. And that is a demonstration of the custom Reactor archetype. That does it for the Reactor custom archetype. Hope I was able to deliver, but if not, no worries, because I definitely won't need a hand on the next one.